Hey everybody, my name is Andrew, and today we're going to be talking about how to do parallel compression on drums. It's a pretty simple process that you'll be able to pick up on really quickly, and once you learn how to do it, you're never going to want to go back. So the first question you might have is, what is parallel compression in general? So parallel compression is basically when you have one signal, so one sound, and you are going to process it two different ways. So over here, the first way, we may just leave it clean, may not do anything to it at all. And then the second way, we may compress it. And then you blend those back together at the end, and it gives you a sound that you wouldn't be able to get with just compressing something or anything like that. It's a really interesting process. A little bit of a word of warning here for my live friends. When you're using a DAW, there's almost always delay compensation that will make up for it, and you can get yourself in trouble a little bit with parallel, but it's a lot harder. When it comes to live, you need to be extremely careful about your two paths that you're having your single source split out to that are going to be summed back together. They need to be exactly in time with each other, or you're going to get all kinds of weird phasing stuff going on that will make things just sound weird, and you're not going to understand why all of a sudden things sound maybe thin and weaker than they should. My solution to all of this is a free plugin from Waves called Studio Rack. So this plugin right here, it's super simple to use and it's free. So why not use it? Basically, you just go over to this left side here, hit the plus, and then click Parallel Split. And then that will allow you to have two exact copies that you can put different plugins on, work however you want, and that way you don't have to worry about it being in time. The program makes sure that everything's in time. Before we get too far into this, let's just take a listen and see what the parallel actually does to the sound of the drums. So I just have kick and snare with overheads. So here we go. Let's take a listen. I think it makes a pretty significant difference. So diving into what I'm actually doing here on the clean version of the drums, so this is the one that doesn't have any special compression or EQ really on it other than what is done to each individual drum. I have a little tiny bit of tape saturation, so if I play it, you'll see, I mean, it's not really hitting that hard. It's just there for just a little bit of color. And then I have Fresh Air on there, which is a really great free plugin, which just adds some really high-end sparkle stuff. So I just have 5% on both the mid-air and the high air. These are really subtle things when it comes to the what I call the clean side of the drum bus. Then when we go over to the what I would traditionally call the crush side of the drum bus, I'm doing much more heavy-handed moves. So I have a DBX 160 on here, and on snare hits, I'm digging in at least 10 dB of compression. And I like this plugin because it gives me that snap that we're looking for that I really want to add with the parallel compression. And so I'm just adjusting the threshold until I get about 10 dB of compression, maybe even a little bit more on snare. 4:1 compression ratio, and that's all I'm doing on that plugin. So I like to keep it really simple so that I can easily repeat it. So simple compression on there, and then this EQ P1A, which is just a really popular, really broad stroke EQ. So all I'm doing with this is I have the low frequency band set at 100, and then I have it boosted to 7 and attenuated to 7. You'd think that would just cancel out. That's not how this plugin works at all. I actually was able to get a visual representation of that for you. So I did a noise test before the plugin and after, and this is what it's really doing at the end of the day. So if you don't want to use that plugin, that's totally fine. You can just use a normal EQ and do this general type of curve. It said it was supposed to be, I'm boosting at 100. You can clearly see we're boosting to 600, at 600 and down, it's boosting. And then the cut is actually doing above that. So it's really taking out more of this 1 to 2, 3K-ish range. just a little bit. So it's probably, 4 dB cut around 1.25, up to a 10 dB boost, kind of from like 200 on, with a gentle slope from 200 to like 700. So it's a pretty big move. What I'm doing there is really just trying to get it so that it gives me extra punch, and then it adds low end to that punch. So it's really like, just makes it a really thick punch. And then what I did is I turned down the parallel side to -10. So I'm turning that side down because I just want it to be a subtle add of boost of punch. I don't need it to carry the entire sound. So make sure when you're doing this, don't rely too heavily on needing parallel compression. Use just your normal, like the clean side of the drum bus. Get your drum sounding as good as you possibly can, and then introduce some parallel compression and see if that can take them to even the next level still. But you don't want to over rely on it and, just start with this immediately and then start trying to, dial in the normal compression on a snare drum or anything. It can get a little confusing that way. And just like with the EQ, how, I showed you on a traditional style EQ, how you'd be able to recreate it. You don't have to use this exact compressor to be able to get good parallel drum sounds. It really isn't necessary at all. The thing to be aware of with it is you probably want, roughly a 4:1 compression ratio, and dig into it. So I'm talking like at least 10 dB of compression. I've heard some people say they want at like 20 plus. So don't be afraid of compression when you're doing parallel. And then really play with primarily the attack time on the compressor. So the slower the attack is, the more punch that snare is going to have. So there is a limit to that. If you go too far, you'll let it open up further than the actual full sustain of the hit, and then you won't get extra punch. So you really want to play with the attack time and get it so that it has the sound that you're looking for. And then with the release, I would say probably keep it on the quicker side, but don't go super, super quick. You want to leave a little bit of time so that when it, because the whole idea is that the sound is coming in, you're turning it up, you're coming out here, it hits, and then the compressor is hitting it back down, and it's creating this like sharp point between where the drum gets hit and then the compressor hits it down. And so you're adding a poke there, and you want to kind of let it stay down for just long enough that that poke is really emphasized, so it's not just like a really quick back to where it was. So again, just play with it. You'll figure it out. It's not tremendously difficult, but you don't need fancy plugins to do this. These are just my go-tos when I have all my toys. Just as a final step, let's just kind of listen to what the whole processing on this bus is doing. And then I'll also add in a little bit of reverb so you can hear a more polished final sound. So let's take a listen. Now let's add in the verb. That's nice. I mean, considering that was a live drum set on a live stage, I'm pretty happy with it. And that's pretty much parallel drums. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Really just play around with it and figure out how to get cool sounds out of drums. If you're interested in picking up any of the plugins that I mentioned in this video, I'll have links down in the description that you can take a look at. I don't think I used any particularly expensive plugins on here, so a bunch of them are free, and the ones that aren't are on the cheaper side anyway. So take a look at those. Also, let me know if you're interested in me doing a video on how to do parallel compression on vocals. Trust me, if you thought parallel compression on drums was cool, vocals is really where it's at. It just locks the vocal in a way that's so cool. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.